Martha, do you believe this? You know, Jesus is not shy. He's not hesitant. He's not reluctant about putting the ball back in Martha's court. And here we are, friends. We're in her shoes. We're not just these neutral, passive observers checking out this conversation from a distance. Now, you and I get drawn into this drama, friends. We become part of the story, and the question comes to every one of us. Do you believe this? And you have to be careful about the way you answer that question, because we get so accustomed in our culture to saying we believe just about anything. But here's a way to think about it. If I told you this morning, you didn't know this, but I've been taking flying lessons. And tomorrow is my first solo flight all by myself. And if you respond, John, no worries, I believe you'll do fine. You really believe that? Yeah. Then get in the plane with me and let's go. Because the meaning of the word believe in the New Testament is that you have such a conviction about the truth of something that it impacts the way you live your life. It's not just this mental, intellectual assent that doesn't affect anything about you. Do you have a conviction about the person of Jesus that impacts the way you live your daily life? Your relationships with people, your attitudes, the way you spend your time, the way you spend your money, the focus of your life. When we say, I believe, all those things and a whole bunch of other things are meant to be impacted. And then we get the response from Martha. Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God who is to come into the world. And this is a great testimony. You know, sometimes Martha gets talked down a little bit, because in the Gospel of Luke it records how she complained that Mary wasn't helping her serve when Jesus and the disciples came to their home. And yet we got to give her a little more grace. She gives this confession. Yes, Lord, I believe you're the anointed one, the Christ, the Messiah, the one who is authorized and empowered by God to represent him and to bring salvation to the human race. You're the Son of God. You're the one who's in this unique, personal, intimate relationship with your Father and is able to represent him the way no one else can. And yet you're the one who's come into the world. You stepped out of light into darkness so that you could deal with these heavy issues of sin and death and the devil and open the door to eternal life. Without knowing it, Martha has experienced what John tells us is the reason he wrote his gospel. At the end in chapter 20, he says, Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book, but these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. There it is again, friends, from beginning to end. Life. God's goal for us is this eternal life, this quality of life that is lived in a relationship with him, and yes, does go on forever. And Jesus spoke of this in chapter 17 in his prayer. He said, now this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. This is Martha's response. But if we're truly in the story, there's one more response that's needed. It's, what about you? When Jesus asks, do you believe this? How do you answer? You know, there's a ton of other voices that are speaking to us every day of our lives, friends. Whether it's social media or television or printed media, lots of other voices clamoring for our allegiance and our attention. At the beginning of Pilgrim's Progress, John Bunyan says that the character named Christian, who is called to go on this pilgrimage towards the celestial city, started out following the one who was calling him, and then his family and others in the village started yelling at him, "Stop, stop, stay here." And Bunyan says that Christian put his fingers in his ears and he just started crying, "Life, life, eternal life." And then he kept going. That's what you and I need sometimes, friends. To say yes to Jesus louder than all the other voices clamoring at us. To say yes to eternal life that involves freedom from the fear of death, because Jesus Christ himself is the resurrection and the life.